the Ukrainian fallout, or the Ukrainian front and the fallout thereof that is going on. Not nuclear, of course, hopefully, forever. But we will start off with a map of the current situation. Again, using the Institute for the Study of War, just because I rely on the fact that it's probably most accurate. As you can see, the invasion going ahead, getting more forwards, and looking worse, as it always does. That's that. Yeah. So if we move forward, we can see some of the responses or some things that have taken place since yesterday we spoke. And this one being the president of Ukraine signing an emergency application for the EU, whilst like everything around him is barricaded and everyone's in soldiers' uniforms. It's just okay. This. Everything is fine. Everything is fine.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously it's not fine, but I mean, this is. I find this absolutely. Putin was all like, "Oh, I'm going to teach NATO. I'm going to teach the EU a lesson." What by unifying them, making them spend a lot more on their military by putting a flame under the feet of NATO, bring them all together.
There has been that response. I have noticed the EU is becoming more and more solidified into a nation as well, of course, as is the dream, Europe a nation.
Yeah, and of course, militarily, the UK, even though we've left the EU as a kind of trading bloc, we're still very militarily involved. Through NATO, we're all allied. So the UK is still in Europe when it comes to military.
There is that backlash. If we go to the next link, we can also see some of the desperate actions of the Ukrainians, at least this one, for example. Ukrainian prison inmates with combat experience being released under the commitment to fight for the country. So we're setting up penal battalions for Ukrainian defenses.
Quite right.
Which,
should do that in this country.
That's incredibly desperate actions, though. Like, it's the kind of thing you do when you're running out of manpower. But I guess I think they can. Yeah, Suicide Squad, as John says, for some of this. Well, I imagine not so much, unless they've got the guns behind them as well. Now, if we go to the next link, we can also see the heavy weapons being used by the Russians. So this one is some missile that comes out and just blows up in the middle of some admin building, bunch of cars around it. Don't know who survived that. Yeah, that's not fun.
I saw a video that was taken from inside that building as well.
It's just hell.
Yeah.
If we go to the next one, we can also see people taking footage, supposedly, of artillery being used. Again, I'm not out of the realms of imagination.
Because a lot of Putin apologists have been saying, "Oh, Russia's not targeting civilian areas. They're trying to spare the civilian population." I mean, that is definitely a residential block.
Yes, you could say it's complex because, of course, where are the units also going to be? Well, it's urban warfare. I don't know what the deal is.
This is what somebody was saying, like, but the guns, Ukrainian guns are in urban areas, and it's like, well, they're not going to put them in the middle of a field where they can easily be spotted and blown up.
Yeah, it's just why it's not easy. I mean, like the fact that you've also given the civilian population AK-47s for everyone. Yeah, I imagine
good idea.
It's very complex. Well, then
another thing they should do in this country.
I agree with that.
Be a lot fewer burglaries.
There certainly would be. But this has brought up a debate. I couldn't get the link, but there was some former NATO general on British Newsnight the other day, yesterday, saying that because of the heavier weapons that are being used, his prediction is that the British public and the public of the West will then demand action from NATO, specifically a no-fly zone over Ukraine, which will then escalate the whole thing.
Yeah.
And maybe turn it into World War III.
But I mean, I think that the Western public can demand what they like, but the governments in the West aren't going to do certain things. Hopefully. Because,
he gave the example of, Serbia and that being driven by public opinion, but this hopefully is more careful because of the seriousness of the situation.
I mean, if it gets to a certain point, then I think NATO countries, or maybe not NATO, but NATO countries, will take action, because we can't see the indiscriminate slaughter of tens of thousands of civilians. It's certainly not when Russia's doing it. It's all right when we do it. No, but this is no. There is people are like, but what about Yemen? What about Afghanistan? What about Iraq? And it's like, well, this is a European country. It's this is if we're talking about ideologies. This is a Western liberal. I mean, I know it's been part of the Soviet Union before, but the people in Ukraine want to be in Europe. The people in Russia want to be in Europe. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous to assume that Putin speaks for Russia. Putin's going to end this hanging from some piano wire from a lamppost. Won't even need to be a lamppost because he's so small. Just like a little hanging from that incense stick.
It's your geopolitical prediction.
Man, I worked for my last proper job was working for the Foreign Office. I worked for BAE Systems for years. I was a national security consultant, so I can pull as many opinions out my ass as I want.
Fair enough. If you think you've got the expertise for it. I'm staying away. I've said repeatedly through these segments. You haven't been here, but it's just I don't know. So I'm just being like, meh, because stuff's going on.
My prediction is within a couple of weeks, Putin could go. There's going to be a palace coup. My extra crazy long shot prediction is China China will annex Russia because it needs Russia's resources. I'm not even joking. And Russia's shown that it's militarily weak. This was supposed to show how strong Russia is. I mean, oh my God, they can't even, it's flat land. You can't even roll over. You got all these tanks and stuff, and you're just getting bogged down and getting lost.
Well, there we are. There's the future for us.
Oh, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for Putin. It's like on the one hand, I think he's a terrible despotic dictator. On the other hand, I'm like, oh my God, I feel sorry for the guy. Nobody's ever messed up this badly. Not since I worked at Haringey Council.
We'll see how it goes. But the mention here I want to bring up, because we mentioned about nuclear war. Dominic Cummings has come out of nowhere and decided tweeting about this, which is interesting, and I think it is noteworthy with his connections, let's say. And as you can see, him saying, a no-fly zone enforced by NATO is an act of war that could easily start a nuclear war. It is insane and coming from many of the same people who gave us Iraq, Afghanistan disasters, people who suggest it/similar should be nowhere near power, make your voices heard today. So that's Dominic's opinion on things.
But Dominic Cummings looks like RoboCop when he takes his helmet off, so he'd be fine in a post-apocalyptic disaster.
He'd be serving someone. Yeah. If we go to the next link...
The real danger with nuclear war is Putin is acting based on emotion. He's not acting based on any sort of calculus that a normal, rational leader would make. He's acting very emotionally. He thinks he's got a destiny with history, and that's when people escalate and they're willing to die and all the bad stuff that leads to us getting evaporated.
I don't know. I don't know his... motivations.
I know everything because I went on Twitter and YouTube for half an hour.
I checked out Hassan Tan's tweets. There are a lot of people with Ukrainian flags all of a sudden who are all living in California who told me. So if we go to the next one, we can also see Dominic Cummings backing this up with a statement which is kind of annoying me, at least the thing he mentions, which is when Russia invaded Hungary in 1956, Eisenhower didn't babble about Munich and start a nuclear war. The West had a patient long-term strategy for containment, deterrence, and ultimately bankrupting the regime. Not Twitter hysteria, friendly, but that's what is needed. And I've also been annoyed by this. People are being like, well, this is just Hitler 2.0. And it's like, there are other things in the world than Hitler.
Yeah, but it is basically Hitler 2.0. But also that's what we're doing. We've now got a long-term strategy and quite a near-term strategy for containment and bankrupting Putin's regime. And the thing is, because it's a gangster state, it's not like at least with the communist hierarchy, there was some sort of power structure in there where it wasn't entirely personality led. With it being a gangster state, the people round about Putin that have supported him and he needs as allies are all not earning anymore. They can't comfortably live in London and send their kids to posh schools, so they're going to want regime change. They're going to want a palace coup, and that's when it could happen.
I did see Mikhail Svetov was saying that some of the oligarchs who are known for backing Putin all of a sudden were tweeting while putting out on Telegram and VK that they were unhappy.
Yeah. And China as well, sharing Ukrainian videos. Is a real sign that China's not behind Putin. China doesn't like chaos. They want to take over the world, but in an orderly way, without economic
like the Germans. If we go to the next link, we can also see, if nuclear war does break out, don't worry. Joseph R. Biden has issued guidance for everyone of what to do, which is that Fallout is very dangerous, of course. If we go to the second image on here, you can see his advice. Stay inside. Stay inside for 24 hours unless local authorities provide other instructions. Continue to practice social distancing. By wearing a mask and keeping a distance of at least 6 feet between yourself and people who are not part of your household.
No.
In the nuclear
social
war.
distancing. So what if the Fallout shelter's not big enough for both of you? Is one of you going to have to stand in the yard under the raining nuclear fallout?
Like that Simpsons episode where Ned gets kicked out. He's going to stand on the hill.
Because you wouldn't want to get Omicron and get a scratchy throat for a few days.
So we go to the next link. We can see some of the memes in response to that, of course. You can see the Fallout guy there wearing his mask and social distancing, folks. Boy. If we go to the next link, we can also see some more Trump delusion from the left-wing camps in America. So this is one commentator on MSNBC who decided to say, Trump was installed as the president of the United States, remember, by the Russians, in order to weaken the alliances that were preventing Putin from achieving his goals, alliances like NATO, our relationship with our European partners with Ukraine. Remember, because when you install a puppet, you wait until he's out of office and then launch the invasion. Remember, that's how you utilize a puppet. You got in power, but great expense.
But I mean, Russia has been meddling and influencing in Western elections. Just as we meddle and influence in other overseas elections. We certainly had a bit of meddling in Ukraine in their Maidan Revolution. But I mean, obviously Trump isn't a puppet. But
it's the accusation that Trump has caused this. Like, they're so desperate. They're just like, well, how can we blame Trump on this?
Yeah,
it's like, did you know he undermined the alliances? It's like, no.
The original boogeyman.
We've got all the footage of him, like, bashing the Germans in 17 or whatever, where he's just like, why the hell are you making deals for Russian gas? So
if you want to blame anybody, if you like the businesses and the governments in Germany, especially Germany, who are like, paying. The only reason Putin could afford this war is because Germany and the West have been giving him so much money for their resources.
I mean, we've seen them suddenly realizing this.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah. That was a bad move.
Yeah.
Was it Deutschland? Anyway, let's move to the sanctions, as you were mentioning. So we'll check out some of the sanctions. So we're sanctioning ourselves, which is stunning and brave. You can see here YouTube, Google are now blocking Russian-based channels for Europeans. And if we go to the next link, we can also see apparently Apple Pay and Google Pay are no longer working in Moscow. I don't know if it's true, but it's a claim I've seen online. So it's causing problems there. This is one fantastic. Yes, I mean, cut the Russians off from being able to interact with the West. That'll work. But it also makes a great point that your digital money is worthless. It's even more worthless than your fiat paper.
Yeah.
We go to the next link. We can also see...
Shows an upside to that.
There's also the fact that Russia today has been banned, and Sputnik, from YouTube, if you're in Europe, effective immediately. So if you're a European citizen, you try to watch Russia Today because you're interested in what they have to say, even if, of course, you don't agree with it, or you agree with it, or it doesn't matter. You can't watch it because YouTube said so.
Have they banned it in Russia?
No.
So this is sanctions.
No one in Russia watches it.
Sanctions against Europe, then.
Yes, so we've sanctioned ourselves.
Yeah.
So, because this is the thing, when I met Svetov, he explained to me that Russia Today isn't really popular in Russia. No one uses it.
It's
for foreign audiences.
It's not popular here either. I wrote an article for Russia Today. I'm glad I just wrote one. It was quite a pro-Western article, though.
If you go to the next link, we can see this in action as well. John, if you can click on RT, we tried this before, hopefully it'll work again, which is, not allowed.
Good.
And I'm terrified of this, because it starts off, as all of these community guidelines are, it will start off with, okay, we'll just ban Russia Today because there's a war, and then it'll be, okay, accounts that we say are affiliated with Russian money or just are pro-Russia will be banned. Good. And there'll be random people who say stuff that is just pro-Russian or have an opinion that is not normal.
Is there a downside coming?
And then there'll be people, how is this this is not downsides. Anyone who points out any nuance in any discussion will just be banned.
How can there be nuance?
There'll be nuance in saying that, oh...
Traitor.
Yeah, I forget. This is the Californian mentality.
Yeah.
We are on the good side for good things. And anyone who says even anything nuanced slightly is in the bad side for bad things.
I don't know. I think these are extraordinary times. So I don't think I think what you're saying could happen, but there'll be an enormous backlash against, anything that's not... like there was against Trudeau, cutting banking services for single mothers who donated to the truckers.
But that's the thing. All of these guidelines, do you remember when they were getting rid of hate speech and they were just getting rid of the neo-Nazis and then all the white nationalists and then anyone who said anything about immigration? Yeah. And it's just like, great, everyone's disappeared.
Yeah. And ironically, all the woke stuff that they say, like, the COVID stuff, like Belarus was arresting political dissidents under the guise of, they've breached COVID regulations. And Putin is like, we're going to denazify Ukraine. Whatever is said by the woke left is then mimicked by dictators and autocrats to justify whatever nefarious things they do.
What happens in the West don't stay in the West.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. If we go to the next link, we can see more of these cell phones as well. So this is some website hosting company who are apparently not longer hosting websites in Russian territory because they stand with Ukraine. This doesn't make any sense. Okay, if you're going to sanction a nation, you sanction on economic grounds because you want them to be poorer to show that what they're doing doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
You do not want to sanction information exchange because that's how you change minds. That's how you liberalize a country.
So what is name cheap?
So I don't know. Apparently it's some website hosting site. It's just, again, we're sanctioning ourselves here. It doesn't make any sense. If we move forwards, we can see more of the situation. So this is someone, pointing out, of course, hey, Russians, we heard your government is getting more oppressive, so we decided to not let you access the outside world. Hope that helps.
Nice obvious bot there.
It doesn't...
Username 0xCAFEBEEF.
That's my favorite account. But it's a good point, which is that information exchange is, the name of the game in trying to liberalize a country, not the opposite. If we move forward, we can also see counter-sanctions. So I went and checked out the Moscow press to see what they have to say because I wanted to see what they have to say. And this is them reporting that the Russians are going to do counter-sanctions to counter our sanctions. Which...
oh my God, Russia's economy before all this was the size of Spain's.
It wasn't doing well.
Pathetic. Kind of absolutely pathetic. Now it's the size of a Tesco Extra. So, honestly, Scotland could probably invade Russia right now.
Pravda writes, Vladimir Putin signed the decree on the application of special economic measures in connection with the unfriendly actions of the United States and foreign states and international organizations who have joined them. And some of these are just Strange. And of course, it's just to save the ruble. And number 3, for example, Russian citizens and companies are prohibited from creating foreign currency to their accounts and deposits outside of Russia. So just please trade in the ruble. Please. I don't want the ruble crashing any more than it has.
Yeah.
So that's
and they've got Rosneft and Gazprom to, I think, sell their foreign reserves to sort of basically to shore up the ruble. But this is, pushing against water. You can't stop a currency falling.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it used to be 80 rubles to the pound. Now it's 120, 140.
150, they're saying. And also the people are going to the banks to change their rubles into dollars, and the banks are running out of dollars immediately.
I imagine so.
Yeah.
We move forward, we can also see some alleged actions, which are very funny. So we see here some Ukrainians who apparently brought a tractor and tried to steal some armored vehicle that was abandoned, and some Russian guy who's upset about his tank getting stolen, which, very funny. I hope it's true. It might not be true. Again, fog of war. If we move forward, we can see more memes about this. So Dankula uploaded a meme. If we can click on the second image, please. I love this one. It's just like, the Russians don't want you to know this, but there are tanks on the road and they're free. You can take them home. I have 458 tanks. Great.
Yeah. Should be Oprah Winfrey. You get a tank. You get a tank.
Just go out and steal one. It's the ducks meme again. Anyway, let's go to the next one so we can see more information. This is a TikTok of some lady who's claiming that she also found an abandoned military vehicle and they just stole it.
Yeah.
Because Gibbs.
Looking at the intel that's coming through in Telegram and stuff, like a lot of Russian vehicles are being abandoned, and I think this is partly because the first waves of the Russia, they didn't send their best troops in. They sent in conscripts, people who didn't know what they were doing and stuff, and so a lot of
military
people,
service is required.
Yeah, a lot of people, some of the Russian troops that have been captured are saying they were told Zelensky had already surrendered, so they were just going to stroll into Kyiv. And I call it Kyiv, by the way, because that's the Ukrainian pronunciation. I'm never calling it Kiev again.
That's the English language version.
It's Kyiv.
We're going to have this debate some other time, but Peking, not Beijing. That's communist subversion is what this is.
Do you want a croissant or a croissant?
I want to go caf. I don't want to go to cafe. What's that? Anyway.
Yeah, cafe, not a caf.
Bugger off, you foreigner. We'll get to the next link we can see, because I don't know if that's fake news, but there's something that definitely is fake news. As you can see, people are sharing this a lot, and it's just another example of how misinformation is just going about at the moment. This is some lady who is Ukrainian standing up to that Russian in the middle of the desert in Ukraine. Yes, if we go to the next link, you can see. I also saw on Pravda them pointing out that this has been shared around. It's obviously fake. It's Palestine. It's not Ukraine, because there's a desert, and well, you would have thought that would have made it done.
Who'd have thought Pravda would be like checking fake news?
Pravda are like, we're fact checking now.
Yeah. Pravda, by the way, are they're entirely state propaganda for Russia.
It means truth. Pravda, the word means truth,
and because it's in Russia, that means the opposite.
Yeah, but
it's like Ministry of Justice is the Ministry of locking up political dissidents.
So during Soviet Union, Pravda was the outlet. It means truth. It's very funny, of course, because Soviet news. Yeah. And then this organization, this is the Moscow-based branch who are still about and do the main newspaper in Moscow, is my understanding. Yeah. So, I mean, there are other trademarks, which, again, funny for a communist name. But anyway, move forward. So let's go to the next one, in which we can see some real fake news, which I wanted to enjoy. The centrist of Kiev has turned back 50 Russian troops by sitting down and explaining Gamergate to them. Salutes in the chat to Kalmovsky, Bilosky, doing all this. Let's move forward. So let's go to the next one, in which we can see the peace talks, and there are some very bad takes in response to the peace talks. So this is someone pointing out that it's taking place, and Helen at the bottom there, face mask emoji, woman emoji, woman emoji. Where are the women? Where are the women? They left. We made them leave. The women and children are to leave. Men are to fight the war. This is not Western diversity society, this is militaristic society.
Yeah.
Real society.
Although there have been, Ukraine has got women in the armed forces. There was a female fighter pilot killed, yeah.
But that is up to them. They are not going to be required to. If we go to the next one, we can also see some other dumb takes from people. Like someone else here, some checkmark who's like, I see no women. I see no masks. What could possibly go wrong? Harumph for rumph. Yes, Miss Karen, go to hell. Not going to interact with that one. But then we'll end this off with a more serious section, because this has been going on throughout and needs to be addressed, let's say, or at least looked at, which is the final solution to the Nazi question. So this is the Nazis who are in Ukraine. Yes, but we should talk about them, because I know a lot of people have been, and just, again, I don't know all the facts, but this is just, I saw Majid Nawaz making a big deal about this, and so it should be given its proper due. So this is 7 years ago in The Guardian.
Proper what?
Due.
Okay.
Not Jew. D. So this is an article in The Guardian 7 years ago. So Azov fighters are Ukraine's greatest weapon and maybe its greatest threat, The Guardian wrote at the time.
And they're currently encircled in Mariupol. And of course, they've got a big rivalry, a big sort of blood vendetta with whatever the particular Russian battalions are. That was it the Chechen fighters?
Chechens?
I can't remember, but yeah, so they're basically they're gonna fight to the death. They're ultra nationalists.
Yeah, or they could follow their leader.
It just shows there's a time and a place for ultra nationalism, and when you're fighting a massive invading country, that's
So this is this is the argument throughout. Realpolitik, just you need troops to defend the nation. You'll take what you can get. I mean, there are also Islamists and communists fighting with Ukraine as well, to be mentioned. But in here, there's a really funny.
Also, there's Islamists fighting for Russia, the Chechen troops.
Yes.
So
but they have the luxury of choice.
Putin apologists in the West, sometimes hold him up as this defender of Christianity. Because he's keeping it like absolute nonsense. His troops are some of the most bloodthirsty Islamists in the world.
I don't want to get into Chechnya because that's
yeah. I don't want to get into Chechnya either. No. I want to go to Tenerife.
They have no gays. They promise us.
Yeah,
I still can't go over that.
That's why I don't want to go there.
So, quote from a funny story in this article here. It's funny in the sense that it's wild. So, quote: "I have nothing against Russian nationalists or a great Russia," says Dmitry. But Putin's not even a Russian. Putin is a Jew. This is the Azov brigades at the time. This is an interview they gave. So we move forwards. We go to 2017, in which we can see The Hill reporting on this. The reality of neo-Nazis in Ukraine is far from Kremlin propaganda. There was claims that this was all Kremlin propaganda. Some Western observers claim that there are no neo-Nazis in Ukraine, chalking the assertions up to propaganda from Moscow. Unfortunately, they are sadly mistaken, The Hill writes. If we go forwards, there's a really funny moment where the Israelis were funding the neo-Nazi regiment, which is okay.
It's a complex situation.
It is.
It's a complex situation. Also, the Putin
I'm not losing my nuance on this.
Putin apologists are like, but there's neo-Nazis in Ukraine. It's like nobody was saying it's San Francisco. You know what I mean? Nobody's pretending. It's obviously,
sure.
It's going to have its issue. It's a country in Eastern Europe. It's not going to be the exact same as Islington.
I just find it really funny that Israel's arming the neo-Nazis, which is a hell of a headline. If we move forward again, we can see some footage from apparently 2019. This is some mall that was accepting of Nazi imagery there, as you can see. And if we move forward again, we can see some guy talking about this who claims in here that they send him weapons, the Nazi brigade, because they are the best. We have fun killing, he says. Which, okay, I mean, these are the people there. And if we move forwards once more, you can also see apparently the Canadian troops were training them in combat because, well, they needed troops to defend Ukraine, and these guys were about, so they used them. This is not to say that Ukraine is a neo-Nazi state or anything of the sorts or blah, blah, blah. It is just a reality on the ground. If we go to the next link as well, we can see the US Senate apparently were also not putting in clauses when asked to, not give to the Azov Brigade. They were like, nah, I don't care. Just fun, whatever. And then if we move forward again, we can see, of course, this being in the context of Putin saying that he's going to denazify Ukraine. I also find it really funny that I wonder if that Azov guy, the Dmitry there, was still on the brigade. Because he's like, well, Putin's a Jew. And it's like, well, I've got news for you about the current president of Ukraine, bro. But that is the Azov Brigade, and it is right to say that they are there, and that is a minority, though. I mean, I calculate what was it, about 2% of the army. It's maximum if their claims of how many guys they have is meant to be true. And as you say, now encircled.
Yeah.
Mariupol.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody wins. If, these Chechen troops fight neo-Nazis and tear strips off each other, that's a situation where everybody wins.
I want to play that Call of Duty game in 2 years. Play in Mariupol. Who's the two teams?
We already had all the locations. It's like, this is what the Russians have underestimated. If they sent British people in, we've been playing that bit in Chernobyl, Pripyat, for decades now. So we know all the hiding places.
Yeah, I know at the camp. Here's the next one. We can see some other news on this. This is brand new, which is funny again. Russia will continue the military operation in Ukraine until its goals are achieved and will host the first anti-fascist conference in August, says Defense Minister for the Russians, which, that's, as you can see, the continuing rhetoric from the Russian side of the discussion. There's also some fake news from Western journos who can't help themselves and are just obsessed. So if we go to the next one, I saw Andy No sent me this, which is that there are a bunch of Western journos who were duped into thinking that the Proud Boys, the far-right Proud Boys, were going to go and join the neo-Nazis, because they're all neo-Nazis, aren't they? The guys who, the leader shoves a dildo up his ass every stream. Definitely neo-Nazis. Gavin McGinnis made out with Milo at one of the first Proud Boys rallies. There's an image of him just making out with Milo, and it's just like, yeah, Not sure this is homo nationalism. I think this might be something else. But Western journos spreading fake news as well because they cannot help themselves. But let's try not to end on a bummer.
So somebody just tweeted being like, "Yeah, I'm in the Proud Boys. Yes. I'm flying to Ukraine to."
If you click on that third image there, John, just so you can see where the third one. Yes, the third. So you can see them being like, "Oh, I'm off to the Ukraine," and then if you go to the fourth one, it's just footage from like someone flying a plane. But Western journos are idiots.
That's
so
hilarious.
They fall for this. Let's try not to end on a bummer. So let's end on something a bit more cheerful and whatnot. So last thing here.
End on a bummer. That was you could have picked a better word there.
Yeah, so we can see this I found amazing, which is just a story of ingenuity.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If you scroll up, you can see that the Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine asked for Starlink to be set up in Ukraine for the internet connection, and within 6 hours, Elon Musk tweets back, "So yep, it's now active. Don't worry."
Yeah, it's amazing.
Done.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
And there's something like 1,600 Starlink satellites in the air. Is that right, or have I made that up?
I have no idea.
There's certainly a lot of them. And yeah, and obviously there's a cost because each one goes up with a certain amount of fuel, and you've got to use that for positioning. But yeah, it's amazing that Elon Musk has done this.
Just within 6 hours, he's got it fixed.
And this provides internet to people in Russia, because in Ukraine, I mean, because obviously, cables and stuff are going to be disrupted by them.
Go to the next one. We can see him thanking him for this and saying thank you very much. And Elon Musk's like, "No problem, bro." Which again, I just that's just
amazing.
The internet,
what a man!
Funny. And I thought we'd end on a funny headline for the last of this. This is an old article from Sputnik, which I found really funny, especially given where we are now. Moscow has no plans for aggression, has never attacked anyone in its history, says Kremlin spokesperson in Sputnik, being Russian outlets. Which, again, I just find funny looking back. But that is the situation. That is the fallout from the conflict so far. Let's hope that's the only fallout. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go over to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the content we have on the site, such as this Contemplation series, which is premium, the Philosophy of Objectivism, which Josh did on the weekend. So if you want to find out what else Josh is up to, you can also follow him on Getter, of course, at @Josh_firm. Thank you and goodbye.